Welcome back to the Beast Game Podcast, and this is our end of the year review. This is the Golden Beast Awards for 2019. So this is our worst and best movies of 2019. I'll start it off. So it's the worst movies of 2019. The first one is going to be Escape Room. That movie was god awful. Supposed to be a take on escape rooms and Saw and all this other stuff just did not work. The next one is going to be Glass. That was a horrible movie. M. Night Shyamalan is banned from the podcast, and that's all I'm going to say about this movie. The next one, Godzilla, King of the Monsters. The next one, Hobbs and Shaw. Just terrible movie. The next one after that, it's going to be Good Boys. It's supposed to be one of those coming-of-age comedies that it just did not work on a lot of levels. The one after that, after James had prompted us to see this movie, it's going to be Brightburn. That movie, the only good part about that movie was the uncle and him saying, no.
Oh yeah. He was like, I can't do this. Nope, we can't do this.
And the whole thing with that movie was, what if Superman had the dark turn that he's super powerful and he's not the shining beacon of humanity. Next one after that needs no introduction, but it is X-Men Dark Phoenix. So 2019 was the end of the X-Men franchise. See what happens with that in the future. I guess it'll be a couple years before there'll be another X-Men movie. So after that, Ad Astra, that movie was pretty bad. Ultimately boring and did not serve a purpose. Do you agree with that, Keith?
Yeah, that was pretty bad shit. No.
All right. And after that, these are going to be my worst movies of the year. So Gemini Man, on a lot of levels, is Ang Lee and Will Smith. That movie is bad. It is terrible. And now it is out on Blu-ray. So you can wonderfully see how bad that movie is. Other than the technology driving the de-aging CG, the movie serves no other purpose other than Will Smith needed to be in a movie, other than Aladdin and Spies in Disguise, which I also saw. The last movie is Charlie's Angels. Again, another movie that made all the wrong decisions. It bombed at the box office. No one would be talking about this movie moving past this point. And it was just a terrible movie. There's no political agenda behind that. It is just bad. So my favorites of the year. The first movie is going to be Shaft. Oddly surprised when I keep saying every week that making sequels to movies that haven't been released in a long time. Samuel L. Jackson, Jesse T. Usher, both of them play off each other well. And this movie is, I guess in this day and age, is wholly incorrect, but it was a good movie. The next one after that is going to be Shazam. Restored my faith in DC. And I guess we'll see with Birds of Prey coming out in February. If they
but I like your optimism, Barry.
Yeah,
I truly do, man.
Yeah, but Shazam was a surprise because that movie had every chance to fail. Same thing as Aquaman, but Shazam succeeded. Interested to see where they go with that. Next movie is going to be My Name Is Dolomite, the resurgence of Eddie Murphy. This movie is not necessarily a comedy movie, but it is a biopic and it's done well. The two other things I have on my list are going to be TV shows. Did not like a lot of movies. The Boys Season 1. Kudos to Amazon for taking a different take on superheroes. They did a very good job of that. The last on my list for my favorites is going to be The Mandalorian. And that is my list for 2019.
My list will be relatively quick and kind of short. So for the best movies of the year, I will say, like, this is in no particular order, Happy Death Day to You. It wasn't as good as the first one, but it was still not a bad movie. I enjoyed it.
Definitely not. I mean, so the first one was more of a sci-fi thriller movie. The second one was more of a, let's just take the science aspect and just go crazy with it.
And it was more of like a whodunit, too.
Yeah.
It had comedic aspects to it. This one had comedic aspects to it, but I believe this one was not done as well as the first one. I mean, they could have went a totally different direction with this movie and would have made it better. I actually believe they went into kind of sappy, a little bit overly too emotional. which I did not like too much. But nevertheless, it is a decent movie. I'll put Us in that category. Also, it is a decent movie. It's pretty good, but it's not as good as Get Out. It's not close, but it's not a bad movie. And then next, I will go with Shazam. Shazam was a pleasant surprise.
Shazam!
I did not expect it to be as good as it was. Watching it, I was very impressed. And I do have, like Barry mentioned earlier, this has restored my faith in DC superhero movies. Aquaman was also pretty good, so I believe they may be going in the right direction. So we're going to see, hopefully, what they do with it. Another movie that was also not as good as the original, but it was pretty decent to me, was Zombieland 2. It was a good movie, but yet people want to just do sequels just for sequel's sake and not have an idea of what direction they were going. This was one of the faults of this movie. It was pretty good, but yet directionless at times. So because of that,
I agree. I mean, that movie tried to do its best,
but nowhere near the original. And last but not least, I am going to put My Name Is Dolomite also on my list. Very good movie. I was just watching it on Netflix. I was like, okay, let's see what this is about. You know, Eddie Murphy hasn't really done anything in a while that could be considered successful, but it shows that he still has his acting chops, and it shows he's a pretty decent actor. I mean, a lot of people I don't think take his acting as seriously. Pretty decent actor. And one thing that I've noticed, that comedians are usually probably well-rounded when it comes to acting. You got to use examples of Jim Carrey, he's a pretty good actor, and also Robert Williams, rest in peace. But you know, they're pretty good actors, but they're also very good comedians. So, and then I want to mention The Mandalorian. It's not a movie, but it's a television show, and it is amazing. And this is what Star Wars should be. This is what The Rise of Skywalker should have been. This is what the new trilogy should have been. It's unfortunate that we will always have this last trilogy just in the library of Star Wars. But The Mandalorian does restore my faith, and they do have an idea of what they're going to do with it. But that's probably due to Jon Favreau, someone that actually gives a shit about Star Wars lore and just the mythologies and everything. So Mandalorian is definitely a must-see. You have the option to see it, I would suggest you do. I will put that on my list for the top movies of 2019. So now for the worst movies, I am just going to run down these because I'm not going to give recognition to bad movies. So, one, Brightburn. Brightburn was a horrible movie. I am not a fan of Superman in any shape or form. So, this is basically just Superman if he was a temperamental child. And yeah, so that's it for that. Moving on would be Pet Sematary. That shit was awful.
Yeah.
That shit was awful.
Yeah.
Disgusting. That's it. That's all I'm going to say to it. Because I believe me even saying those two adjectives for it is giving it too much. Continue to move on for the shittiest movies of 2019, in my opinion. The Curse of La Llorona. That movie had potential to be better than what it was, but it was just a whole bunch of jump scares. For a person that watches horror as much as I do, jump scares just don't do it. You need to actually build the atmosphere. I mean, it had some creepy moments, but it was just kind of like, all right, whatever. I saw it once. I won't see it again. I watch a lot of movies over and over again, especially horror movies I enjoy. This would not make that list of me watching. Barry's going to like this one. Gemini Man.
Yes.
Gemini Man was...
I keep saying it, that Will Smith is not a good actor. And people dispute me, and they try their best, but that movie is the embodiment of why he is not.
Bad Boys for Life would be pretty good, at least.
The only thing he knows how to do well is play Will Smith, i.e. Spies in Disguise, which will be getting a podcast for that soon.
I'm adding two to my worst list. One is kind of like an honorable mention, Dr. Sleep. And I'm a fan of The Shining. I like Stephen King. But this one, I just couldn't get into it. I tried, and it just was not doing it for me. So the number one movie, like I said, there's no particular order, but this is number one for the worst. Rise of the motherfucking Skywalker.
How would
this
I
movie is just doesn't deserve a score. So that just tells you how bad this movie is. That is it for my top 5 for worst movies of 2019. So that is it for me.
My best movies of 2019 are going to be a little controversial. So I'll start with the controversies first. The Joker, 2019. Yes.
Worst or best?
That would be the best. I had a chance to watch it again. The movie held up on a second viewing. In fact, I got a little bit more out of my second viewing of it. Batman the Dark Knight took Batman to that next level. This took the character of the Joker to outside of that. People who actually treated the character with some, I don't want to say reverence, but they treated the character with respect. A comic book character like the Joker, all the things he's done in the comic books, all the things he's done in the movies, TV shows, something like that have come to be in today's society. And it wasn't because of some alien probe or he fell in a vat of chemicals. It wasn't anything extraneous like that. A guy who had mental illness. And it just showed the extremes of that mental illness and what that went to. Well done, the way it was done. I thought Joaquin Phoenix did a fantastic job with it. I understand the negativity surrounding it. It's not one of those films I'm going to sit there and debate someone with about why they should or shouldn't like it. It's one of those films that I can understand the appeal to that. I understand that movie resonated with me and had me thinking about it and had me thinking in a positive light. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I'm a big Quentin Tarantino fan.
I'm around on that movie. I've seen it again. I think I gave it a positive score, but I'm not the biggest Quentin Tarantino fan.
Yeah, Quentin Tarantino, he's changed. I don't want to say he's mellowed out. He's definitely gotten more Hollywood, even though he tries to pretend he's not. He's kind of gone the same route that Spike Lee has gone. They've both gotten to the point where they look at the extremes that they did in the past and realize that, okay, it was equal parts offensive, being a jerk and just not understanding the nature of the game in Hollywood or what the audience wants. And in this case, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he's kind of settled into this niche of doing alternative history, where he's taken real life events and he's kind of twisted them on his head and made it more set up for entertainment value. So I don't want to throw spoilers out there, but he's done it before in Inglourious Bastards. Very serious subject matter, add a lot of comedic elements to it, dramatize a lot of elements into it, and then flips the script. The ending is completely bonkers, and you're like, what the? It's equal parts funny. It's cathartic. I think that's the biggest thing about it. He took a tragic event and he gave the audience some catharsis with it. That didn't really happen. My God, if it did happen, it would have been great. And I really love Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. Those two have got extremely good chemistry. Leo's still on top of his game. The cast was spot on. The writing was good. The directing was on point, and he was very subtle, and he's kind of shown a lot of skill in growing up. I will disagree with his portrayal of Bruce Lee, but it wasn't as bad as how a lot of critics say. A lot of people are going to want to jump to his defense because he's not there to defend himself in that regards. Endgame was easily one of the best movies of the year. One of the best movies I've ever seen. I don't have to explain because I think we kind of explained it enough that what it did for the entire, not just the genre, but just for cinema as a whole, was the conclusion to a meta story told over the course of dozens of movies. 10 years. And it concluded in glorious fashion. It was 3 hours of filmic cinema. And when you have people who are actually plotting out their bathroom breaks when they watch the movie so they can't possibly miss anything, you know you've got something solid. The movie was phenomenal. The directors did a fantastic job. Acting was on point, special effects, everything about it. Not just the best movie of the year, it was one of the best movies of the decade, one of the best films I've ever seen. It belongs on any list for the top. Eddie Murphy's Dolomite Is My Name. I'm going to agree that's one of the best movies of the year. Eddie Murphy was on point with his portrayal of Rudy Ray. Got me to watching Dolomite, cranking up one of Dolomite's old movies.
So did I.
And Eddie Murphy was back in form. It was a fantastic, well-told movie, well-directed. Side characters were just as good and equally enjoyable. So I loved it. Let's go to my worst. X-Men Dark Phoenix, Ad Astra.
Yep. Yeah.
And Glass, for all the reasons that were just uttered and mentioned. Glass was just disappointing as hell. That's going to go on the list of being the most disappointing thing of 2019. It wasn't Rise of Skywalker. That was one of the worst movies of 2019. Glass was just brutally disappointing. It had everything going for it. M. Night ended up doing the very thing that he'd stopped in the previous two movies, and that was he went with a twist instead of an actual story. Get it? I understand what the twist was, being that we don't see superheroes is because it's an organization that kills them all. As I mentioned, Rise of Skywalker, I'm going to put Rise of Skywalker as probably being the worst movie of 2019. It just ended the whole year with just total crap. Like, that was just not a good movie. It wasn't well told. The acting was so. It was just a poor movie. We've already gone over why it sucked, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Only that is trash, and I'm done with J.J. Abrams. The only thing I'm going to look at to his movies for is to see how badly it fails, but knowing this guy, he'll probably fail upwards again. He'll probably end up taking over, running all of Disney soon, so they might have him taking over Marvel Comics. Not a big fan of Hobbs and Shaw.
That movie is hot garbage. It starts with that long, almost 20-minute end sequence.
How did it do in the box office? Didn't do too well?
Oh, no, it got almost $1 billion. There will be more of this. At some point, that bubble's going to burst. One more bad movie, and that is Black and Blue. Naomi Harris and Tyrese.
Yeah. I remember seeing that.
She witnesses a murder, and by other police officers on her cam, she gets injured and loses a weapon, and she has to escape to get the evidence back to her precinct in order to expose the dirty, corrupt cops.
Yeah. I mean, that was also another agenda movie.
That'll be it for my best and worst of 2019.
All right, so that is the Golden Beast Awards for 2019, and be back in 2020. More movies, there'll probably be more comic book movies, and hopefully no more Star Wars movies.
Yeah, I can't deal with this shit.
Star Wars needs to go on pause 15 years or something. I don't know. Keep telling Keith that. And Keith's like, no.
That's like the uncle from Brightburn.
No. You're not going to do this today. We'll be back. Beast Game Podcast. Yeah!